So we have this amazing pile, if you will, of information that came out of a period of time between the 3rd century BC and the 2nd century AD. The Book of Enoch was probably penned around the 3rd century BC. Jubilees probably about the 2nd century. Book of Giants about the 2nd century BC. Jasher, Jasher's a little odd. Joseph Smith thought that Jasher was discovered around the fall of Jerusalem at 70 AD. And then you have the Apochryphon of John. The Apochryphon of John was penned probably around 150 AD. Now, having said that, we have no idea where the source material came from. The source material is a lot of times it's verbal. It's passed down from person to person until it's penned. The Apocryphon of John is a Gnostic text, we think.
It's certainly a strange text. It's very difficult for somebody coming from a standard biblical background to read.
It is, because it doesn't say that mankind was created. It says that mankind was put together like a project. That's the interesting thing about it. It's a list of who did what. You could walk into Boeing at this particular time and find a text that looks just like this. It'll say, Dr. Oppenheimer invented the power supply. Dr. So-and-so designed the wingspan.
So
Dr.
basically
So-and-so.
Government subcontractors.
That's what this is. It's a list of subcontractors. It's amazing.
But
So
isn't that
this
really...
little book, The Apochryphon of John.
Isn't that really kind of the picture we even get if we go back and we look at the Elohim and we begin to understand this pluralistic aspect of what's called rendered as God in the Old Testament? And it looks to me like there's a subcontracting project going on even with the creation.
It does, and this breaks it down into who invented what. So if your right arm has arthritis, you can look back and go, well, this angel made this arm, and it's his problem.
You're really hoping that they weren't the lowest bidder on this contract.
So here we are, and are they making the DNA? Are they putting together the DNA? Are they putting together the projects in a microcosmic way? Or what is going on here? God tells these guys, we're going to build man. And he parts us out. And these angels begin to create the different pieces of us and put us together. It almost looks like we are, according to this little book, a project that was created, put together, and no wonder we don't fit so well sometimes. If, for example, we crashed on Mars because we subcontracted part of that to Europe. If you recall, many years ago, we had a Mars lander that didn't land quite well. Well, see, the problem was they were, and I speak from a DoD contractor point of view because that's where I came from. And the problem there was we sent them specs in feet, and they sent us back specs in meters, and nobody put it together. So we happened to have fired the rockets after we hit the planet. So things don't work so well when they're parted out like that, and so we are defective creatures. The Apocryphon of John is a manufacturing list of what was going on to get mankind up to a beginning level of sentience. Very interesting little book. And when you put it all together, you find out, when you say that we've gone through several extinctions, I wonder how many times we've gone through several creations.
Cycles of prototyping and testing and crashing of projects.
Yes, there may be more truth to the Popol Vuh than we think. That is the Mayan text that says that we went through several creations trying to get it right using several substrates to build us off of. Wood did not work well, rock did not work well. Finally, they found the right substrate, and so here we are.
But at the same time, we're looking at the physical creation. Are we looking at the spiritual incarnation? What do these books say about man in terms of his divine nature in respect to what we've just talked about?
Well, that is a very, very interesting question. This is my take on it, and I always tell you this: everything in my head could be wrong. And if a person actually thinks that they really know, then run away.
Yes, yeah.
There's a timeline that we were created. This tells us 7 days, however you want to look at what a day is. The Bible goes on to say a day is 1,000 years and so on and so forth, which, by the way, is why Adam had to die before he reached the age of 1,000, because he was told he would die that day. A day is 1,000 years. He was given 1,000 years to live. Before he hit 1,000, he had to die. All right, so for all of you who have been wondering about that, that's taken care of in the books of Adam and Eve, and it's explained quite well. We are told that everything was created in 7 days. That has to be the spiritual creation also, if we're going to take that literally, or even figuratively in time, but literally in what happened. And so in the old Jewish text, you will find something called the Guph, G-U-F or G-U-P-H, and the Guph is,
yes,
it is the place where the souls are contained, the spirits are contained. And so God creates everything. He goes through this creation frenzy, but there are no bodies for the souls. And so the souls are created and kept. The bodies are a creation done here on a natural plane, just like seeds grow plants.
Yeah.
But if we are spiritual beings, then he had to take care of that once and for all at that time. So now you have basically eternal spirits kept with God until such day as they are needed for incarnation, and they come out of the Guph and they are sent into the world and they are incarnated.
Yeah.
Then when they are done, they return to God. Now, I know that we have a problem here with what is heaven and what is hell, but I am going to tell you simply, according to the old Jewish tradition, we are like the sparks of embers coming from the divine flame. And when all of those sparks of embers return to the flame, when the gulf is empty, time stops. There is no more need for this particular creation to continue. And so we are waiting for the gulf to be emptied. That is that story according to very, very old Jewish tradition and myth.
Yeah. And that actually resonates real well with me, because that's something I've been looking into as well for a while, Joseph. This, I call it the river of souls. We've talked about the fractal aspect of God, that basically we are, to use your metaphor, like sparks from a flame or from a fire. We're shot off and we return back to source. And this kind of militates against the traditional Christian view of an eternal burning hell or something, but that doesn't seem to be consistent with even what Jesus taught when we look at it on, the granular level. But this idea of this river of souls, this Guph as it's called in the Hebrew, And this incarnation and returning back to source feels like a more natural path for the soul itself, for the spirit.
Yes, it's difficult to actually justify the existence of Satan as we know it in the older Jewish literature. And it's not like Satan just absolutely burst into existence all of a sudden or was recognized. It almost looks like it came out of the Zoroastrian traditions of an absolute good and absolute evil. In the Jewish traditions, the older ones, Satan was not Satan and hell was not hell. We find the old saints sitting in an offshoot of there's a chasm between the righteous and the unrighteous, you might say, but they're all sitting there looking at each other. So we have different traditions that try to visualize this differently, and according to the Jewish tradition, there really wasn't a Satan as we know it and a hell as we know it.
I want to go back a little bit, and we were actually touching on demonology earlier, the origin of the demons, and I think this is an area of interest to a lot of people, and I think we should try to grasp as much of this as we can, the source of what we call demons, because traditional Christian teaching doesn't really go into the creation of demons, but you actually do in some of your research.
Yes, if I could, you can edit this however you wish, but this is, I'm going to take this from our Books of Enoch, and this is on page 45, which is the first book of Enoch. Why and for what cause have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven and had sex with women and defiled yourself with the daughters of men and taken to yourself wives and done like the children of earth? You've begotten giants as your sons. Though you were holy, spiritual, living in the eternal life, you have defiled yourself with the blood of women and have begotten the children of blood and flesh and children of men, and you have lusted after flesh and blood like those who die and who are killed. This is why I have given men wives, that they may impregnate them and have children, and their deeds might continue on earth. But you were formerly, get that word, you were formerly spiritual beings living an eternal life, immortal for all generations of the world. Therefore, I have not appointed you wives. You are spiritual beings of heaven, and in heaven was, get that, was your dwelling place. And now the giants have been produced from spirit and flesh, and they will be called evil spirits on the earth. All right, so now we have the sons, the offspring. They will be called evil spirits on the earth and shall live on earth. Evil spirits have come out from their bodies because they were born of men and the holy watchers, and their beginnings are of primal origin. I love that phrase. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits they shall be called. The spirits of the evil one they shall be called. And as for the spirits of heaven, in heaven they shall be their dwelling place. But the spirits born on earth, the earth shall be their dwelling place. And the spirits of the giants, afflicted, oppressed, destroyed, attacked, warred, and caused trouble on the earth. And they shall take no food, and not be hungry, and not be thirsty. And they will cause offense and not be observed. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the children of women, because they proceed from them in the days of the slaughter and destruction. And at the time of the giants, the spirits shall go out, and the death of the giants, at the death of the giants, the spirits shall go out and shall destroy all, incurring judgment, coming from the bodies of their flesh. They shall be destroyed only unto the day of consummation and the great judgment. And all over the watchers and the godly ungodliness, they shall be wholly judged. So there you are. That's a very quick thumbnail sketch of where demons come from. Wasn't the watchers, their spirit. It was the contamination of the spiritual beings into the flesh plane that defiled everything, it twisted it, and now you kill these things, and the spirits, they're eternal. They go out and they torment, and they don't hunger, they don't thirst, they don't sleep. They cause offense that are not seen, and that is a really, really good definition of a demon.
So we basically have a hybridization thing that happens here, and the mixture
That's spot on, by the way.
The mixture between what we would call spiritual beings and carnal beings, who are carnate beings, is the source of what we call the demons, because effectively they were manifested as human bodies, but at the same time they also had what we would call an immortal spirit. Is that correct?
That is absolutely what the text says, yes. And you can actually look at what we're doing today and see why there was giantism. Because if you take a tiger and a lion, and you mix a tiger and a lion, and you get a tigon or a liger, one of those creatures is the biggest cat on the planet. And so it's not difficult to see how mixing these genes, if you will, could cause the giants and the Elios and the Nephilim. Because when you mix a tiger and a lion, or a lion and a tiger, you get two different creatures.
Now, what we basically described here goes back to the fallen angels. Can we cover that a little bit? Because that sort of brings us to a place where we can understand the bigger picture of what I guess we call the archons. Would that be correct?
Yeah, the archons are the higher powers, the authorities that are referred to in the Bible. The rulers of darkness in high places. That phrase has the word
Ephesians
archon.
chapter 6, yeah.
So we have 200 watchers. There's a small book called the Book of Giants, which is very intriguing. Some people think that the Book of Giants was written after and as a supplement to the Book of Enoch. The Book of Giants was written around the 2nd century BC. We need to be real careful because we've been wrong on this so many times. For example, we thought maybe that Enoch was written after Jude because it quotes
and that's
it, but
been
when we really
advanced as well by people who that offends, yeah.
But we know that it's quoted, and we've dug up things that are older than that. It goes back to the 3rd century BC. So we think at this point that the Book of the Giants was written after Enoch, but Enoch could have been written, they're about the same time. Okay, the Book of Giants says there were 200 of these guys that came down, 200 watchers, and that's also echoed in Enoch. 200 angels, 200 watchers. They look, they go, man, I really want to experience that. That is something that I can't get my head around. I really want to do that. Make a contract with each other. I'll do it if you'll do it, and a curse on you if you don't. Well, because they're spiritual beings, the curse actually means something. So they get together, they have this blood pledge, and they all go down at the same time. And Azazel starts teaching them things that he shouldn't be teaching them. How to read and write. By the way, Enoch is the first one, according to some of the texts, that actually knew how to read and write, and he began to document everything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, where do you think he learned it? The angels, the watchers taught him. They were supposed to be here and observe, but they began to interfere. So we are told in this little book, which is pretty fragmented, that they get down here and they start taking these women, but they start having these really horrible dreams. Their subconscious is pounding them about what's going on and what's about to happen. And they dream about being destroyed, and they panic. And one of them, the head watcher, one of the heads, one of the leaders, is called out by name, and his name is Gilgamesh. in the middle of these little books, naming the watchers and all of these people, and these 200. One of the main ones happens to be a Babylonian god king called Gilgamesh. He shows up in this little book. Well, the Bible tells us that they were the men of renown. I mean, come on, we can put this together. We're not that stupid.
Yeah.
The watchers, maybe we are, I don't know. The watchers, the fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, they're referred to in the book of Genesis. You know, they gave us the giants and the men of renown. Well, the men of renown happen to be those mythological heroes that we have. More than likely, they were, according to Jasher, our rulers. They were Achilles and Hercules and Gilgamesh. And these people that we pick out and say they were myth and they didn't exist, there's a chance that they really did exist and they weren't exactly what we think they were. They weren't, well, maybe they were what we think they are. They weren't entirely human. They were watchers. So the Apocryphon of John tells about the manufacturing of the angels, of mankind. The Book of the Giants tells that they were something else. They were god kings. It also tells us that when they really kind of spent themselves, they really kind of did what they wanted to do, and then, you know, remorse set in, that they started having these horrible dreams. Look at sin like this. Sin is temporary insanity. And once you get through the sin and you look back, you usually go, what was I thinking? And the problem with the watchers is there was no way of getting back. And so here we have a storyline that splits. Most texts indicate that they did not come back. God would not let them back. But there are some texts, like the second and third books of Enoch, that indicate that those people, those angels that went down, they were allowed back, but they were put in a place in heaven, and they were called the Gregory. And Enoch finds them in his ascension to heaven, mournful, in a mournful, repentant, weeping state all the time. They regret what they did, but there's no way to undo it. And so in the book of the second and third book of Enoch, you see him address the Gregory, and he says, sing, brothers, sing. Let out your mournful tone and let out your sorrow in song. And the Gregory starts singing, and it indicates that it's all in minor chords. You know, I've heard it said before that that all of nature sings in minor chords because they strain, waiting for the return of God. So here the Gregory singing in minor chords in a mournful, sorrowful state because of what they did. How's that for a storyline?
In a lot of ways, that pulls a lot of things together. It also leaves us with a lot more questions. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to take up some more of this material in another segment with you, Joseph, because I think we have an abundance of material here that ties into a lot of things that people, including myself, have been researching that have to do with modern day, I'll say, archetypal, mythological things that are going on, UFOs, so-called extraterrestrial visitations to Earth, and I think this is a great place to unravel some of these mysteries.
Absolutely. I think we have to be very careful. If we are wrong on one way or the other, and the time comes that they do appear,
Mm-hmm.
will we be entertaining aliens unaware or demons unaware? You see. Can I have a cheap shot here? This
Absolutely.
is our book.
Yep. Go for
Okay,
it.
this is our book, and of course it's going to be backwards. You can put it on there, and this is the Encyclopedia of Lost and Rejected Scriptures. All of the books that I have talked about today come from our encyclopedia. I'm very proud of it. It's over 800 pages and just dozens and dozens of lost text I'll put out there for your consumption.
And you can find that at fifthestatepub.com.
Yes, or on Amazon.
Very good. And we're going to come back. We're going to do some more on this, because I think what you just said there about entertaining aliens unaware or not understanding this vast universe that we have that has been handed down to us in historical texts, some of them broken, ancient scriptures and mythologies. All of this is important for us to understand, and I think it's important for us to look at and study now. So we'll be back again with another segment. I'm Randy Moggins for The Threshing Floor with Joseph Lumpkin from Fifth Estate Publishing.
Thanks, Randy.